Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to learn more about the brand new, completely redesigned GuideStar nonprofit profiles. My name is Cody Cassady, and I'm the Marketing and Outreach Coordinator here at GuideStar. We're very excited to be able to share with you how you can share your organization's full story, front and center, with our brand new profiles. As you may have noticed already, quite a bit has changed, so we've got a lot to cover. But before we begin, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. First, we're recording today's event, so rest easy if you missed a point or didn't have a chance to write down a note. You'll receive an email within 48 hours with links to the slides and a recording from today's event to go back to as you'd like. Next, we've blocked off about 15 minutes at the end of today's event to answer your questions. To submit a question, simply drop it in the Q&A box here within the WebEx platform. If you don't see that box right now, move up to the top of your screen and select the Q&A button. If you're on a Mac, it looks a little different. The button is at the bottom, and there's that question mark button. And finally, we're live tweeting today's event using the hashtag #nonprofitprofile. So please feel free to join us in the conversation on Twitter using that hashtag. And with that, let's get started. I want to first take us on a journey down memory lane for a moment. Some of you are looking at your organization's profile on our site for the very first time. Welcome, by the way, while others of you have been with us through multiple iterations of our profiles. All along, our hope has been to aid nonprofits in their attempts to remain transparent to the public, but to also help build a platform where nonprofits can share crucial information about their nonprofit, including, but certainly not limited to, their Form 990. That took us here. This is the GuideStar nonprofit profile as of just a few days ago. This iteration of the profiles was characterized by tabs that allowed you to view different types of information quickly and easily. But ultimately, if you wanted to see that data visualized to get a better sense of it at a single point, or to look at trends over time, you were on your own. No longer is that true. Now, as you may have already seen in action, the GuideStar nonprofit profile is itself a beautiful, completely functional tool to see all kinds of information about a given nonprofit right within its profile. As a nonprofit, this means that your organization's financial and programmatic information comes to life, as you see here, but also that it's joined right alongside pictures, logos, videos, and more, painting a full picture of your organization. So, what really can the profiles do for you as a nonprofit? That's a great question. I'm now happy to turn to my colleague, Scott Menzel, the Senior Product Manager at GuideStar, who has been hard at work over the last few months, making the profiles the fantastic tool they are today. As you may remember, we launched the beta version of the profiles a few months ago and asked for your feedback on the new design. Scott has been instrumental in going through that feedback and implementing it into the profiles where possible. So, to say the least, Scott knows a little bit about what makes the new profile so great. So, with that, Scott, take it away.
Cody, thank you very much, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I want to spend most of my time actually showing you and walking through the finished product, but I've got just a few slides to get us started. So, when we were in the beginning stages of redesigning the profile page, a lot of the design thinking that went into this was that we wanted these pages to be more than just data. We wanted them to tell your story as a nonprofit and to be able to answer the primary questions for your grant makers and other donors. So to that end, I mean, as Cody alluded to earlier, there's a lot of multimedia. There are videos, there are photos that you guys can upload through the profile update program. We have social media links. We have improved display of diversity data, improved display of financial data. And we're going to be taking a look at this here very shortly. Next, as Cody also had mentioned, in the old world, we had a lot of tabs, right? And although the information was sort of logically separated, the old pages were divided into categories that in some cases really didn't make much sense from sort of a contextual standpoint. So we wanted to go with a more context-rich environment versus a compartmentalized one. And again, we'll be going through this in some detail. We wanted to improve usability on a lot of different fronts, and I think that we did that, including navigation, access to paid feature controls, and metrics instead of just displaying data within tables. And lastly, we wanted to align data sources and the display for all experiences. In our last iteration of profile pages, basic users would see something different than charity check users, which was different than premium, and it was just a disparate sort of experience that wasn't very user-friendly. We now have a consistent design across user experiences. We did, for a period of almost 2 months, do a production beta of the profile pages. And unfortunately, WebEx is not cooperating with my awesome animations here, so I'm just going to kind of walk through this step by step. We had a couple of different survey mechanisms on the beta pages. We got really good positive results. As you can see, 75% positive survey results, and then on our nudge survey, we had an 85% positive rating. What were some of the things that we heard? Well, some of the users weren't able to, to find the 990s. Now, as an organization, I think maybe as a sector, we want to, by and large, maybe de-emphasize the importance of 990s. But that said, there are many users that still really need them. So we reacted to that feedback to make the 990s a little bit more obvious to find on the new profile pages. For premium users, they had a little bit of difficulty finding their feature controls. So we did a couple of iterations on that as well. Some of the screenshots over here just kind of illustrate that. But again, we'll go through that in more detail next. And then there was some confusion over, updating a profile versus viewing the profile page. And Jasmine will get a little bit more into that when I'm finished with my presentation. So, without further ado, let's take a look. Share my screen. All right, so this is the new profile page. I'm thinking that many of you probably have already seen this, but for those of you that hadn't, I'm going to walk through this. One bit of a disclaimer before we start. What we're looking at here is the premium subscriber view. Premium is actually available to all of any nonprofit that gets to a gold level in their profile. And Jasmine Marrow, my colleague, will get a little bit more into detail on that after this demo. Generally, let's start at a high level. The premium tool set is at the top here. There are several things that premium subscribers have access to. They can save organizations. They can download data for organizations. There's a PDF available for all user levels. They're also able to, any user is able to share this via Twitter, Facebook, or via email. And as you'll notice, these feature tools are persistent at the top. That's a new improvement in usability, where a user used to have to scroll all the way back up to the page to have access to the feature controls. Next, you'll notice that instead of the 8 tabs, we have grouped the information contextually into these 4 sections: summary, program and results, financials, and operations. I think a pretty good example of this new contextual organization of data is the forms and documents that used to be available on the appropriately named Documents tab before. But again, in contextual thought, when we went into this, we wanted to design this so that, you know, the forms were where you would expect them in context with these sections. We'll get into that a little bit more as we go through each section, but you see the 990s are right here in the summary section. And we've done some improvement. This was just a little bit washed out when we first released it. Now it stands out a little bit more, and they're a lot easier to find. So one last thing about navigation, you can click through on any of the top tabs. You can also click through to any section or all the way to the back using this persistent navigation here on the left side. So that's just how you sort of get around on the page. Let's just go through this section by section. So what's the summary? All right, so this is kind of the story of the organization at a glance. You see things like mission. You see the main program titles. You see, some high-level revenue and expenses, number of employees over time, and this goes all the way back to when we've had digitized data for a given organization. The forms 990 and 990Ts are here. Logo is here, and other things such as the NTEE code, contact information, subsection, etc. We'll also notice as we go through each one of these sections that we made far liberal use of tooltips, so that if a user has a question about where a particular data is sourced or what particular data is, we often actually get a lot of questions about what NTEE codes are, that with one click, they can pretty much find out what they need on a lot of these, like what really could be considered inside baseball terms. Also, a lot of the data is sourced. So we get some data from our profile program, as most of you know. A lot of data also comes from the Form 990. We also get some information from the IRS BMF. Those high-profile bits of data are sourced here, including the top funders, which is self-reported by the organization through the profile program. So that is the summary section. Programs and results is next, and if a nonprofit has completed their profile on GuideStar, this is a very rich section. There's a lot of stuff that can go in here. So there's an impact statement. We just, for purposes of not being too text-heavy all at once, have these expand collapse functionality within each section. Program information, including budget. A lot of this stuff, I believe many of you are already aware of, because this is all data that you're able to update through the profile update program. Service areas, annual reports, again, really within context. These documents used to be all on a tab called Documents. Now annual reports are within the Programs and Results section, contextually more relevant. Links to social media here, funding needs, videos, which all open. Sorry about that. They all open in new windows, and photos. Again, a lot of this stuff is intended for to allow a nonprofit organization really to tell its real story, as opposed to just potential donors looking through tables and tables worth of data. We'll go into the financial section next. Again, if we had audited financials for a given organization, it's within this section, and all of the relevant documents within each section are always up here at the top right. This is really the biggest data visualization that we've designed for the new profiles. It's just revenue versus expenses for as far back as we have digitized data for an organization. As you can see, as I mouse over the fiscal years, the values are displayed for the component in question, and also over here, all of the associated values for a given fiscal year also change based on the fiscal year. This is intended to give a longer term picture of an organization's, financial history, their financial health. And again, it goes all the way back to when we have started digitizing data for a given organization. Again, it's also sourced for just to be thorough. We also have some metrics. We're trying to get away from merely displaying data, as I've mentioned a couple of times, into displaying metrics and things that are a little bit more meaningful to people looking at these profiles. So we have some liquidity measures here, fringe rate, funding sources, basically a high-level breakout of how an organization is funded, and then a more baseline sort of assets versus liabilities graph for long-tail data here as well. And for those users that still like financial data in tables, it's still available here, again, for as far back as we have digitized Forms 990, albeit with a bit of a data visualization here to show a trend for each one of these more granular financial values, and the ability to download the 5 most recent years of revenue and expense and 5 most recent years of balance sheet data here as well. Lastly, the operations section is at the bottom. This is really about the people, their board of directors, number of employees, demographics. Again, contextually relevant documents in the upper right section, including letter of determination and formation document, the Form 1023-1024. This leadership is available in digitized format with a bit of visualization to help break up the text. The chief executive profile, statement from the CEO, highest paid employees is digitized from the Forms 990 and the compensation. The ability to download the highest paid employees, ability to download the board of directors for the most current year, and then the governance measures here. We have the board chair, board leadership practices, which is, this is a questionnaire that's available to be filled out in the profile. This is a bigger version of the same visualization that you saw up in the summary section for number of employees over the years. And then this organizational demographics, which is also available within to update in the profile. And then it's just a better way to sort of visualize and break up the text that was our existing profile page before we launched this redesign. So that is basically it in a nutshell. Again, it was our desire to give nonprofits the ability to tell their whole story, for people not to get too hung up in certain aspects of the Form 990 data, and to simplify the navigation in such a way that it just made this a lot more palatable for users to consume. And at this point, I would like to introduce my colleague, Jasmine Marrow, who's the Director of Nonprofit Strategy for GuideStar USA, to go over a little bit more about how you can update your profiles.
Thanks so much, Scott. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about what opportunities you have as nonprofits to update your profile and to really flesh out the story that's already told on your profile. So I want to give you a tour of a couple of things. One, we're going to walk through how you might update your profile. And also, I just want to, Scott has mentioned a couple of things, and I just want to make sure to hit on them again and highlight the parts of your profile that are really able to be manipulated by the nonprofit itself. So what I really love about our new profiles is that front and center, every section, there are pieces that are the story as told by the nonprofit. We definitely think that as nonprofits, you guys have the most tangible, up-to-date information about your own organization, and we really want to treat you as the authority on that. So there's a ton of spaces for you to share your own story and to really flesh that out and really tell that story in the ways that you feel most comfortable. I think the biggest place that that exists is in this program section. So the impact statement is this condensed, summarized version. We usually advise that you make it around 500 words or so, of what you as an organization are doing to achieve your mission and what that looks like for you. And then here you go into more detail around your programs and talk about the budget and your population served and give an overview of your programming. And you can do as many or as few of these as you would like. Some people break out their work into a ton of programs. Some people talk about it as sort of one or two really big overarching programs. And both of those are really great. This is your story and it's the way that you want to tell it. So just highlighting a couple of other, I think Scott did a great job in telling you all of the parts, so I'm just going to give you some quick updates. So over here on the side is where you see all of your social media links, and those are really easy to enter, and I'm going to give you guys a tour of how you do that in just a second. But these link back to the world outside of this page and how people can connect with you and your organization later down the line once they've gotten all of this information. One section here that we've added that we think is really great is a funding needs section. So this is where you can tell donors and decision makers directly what your most pressing current needs are for funding. So you can talk about a particular program, particular in-kind donations, those sorts of things. Here's where you upload videos. These can be overarching organizational, like this one that we have for GuideStar. They can be more program specific. A picture can really very clearly tell your story in a ton of ways, so we've got space for you to do that here. And as Scott mentioned, there's a lot of space to really share your story in the operations section also. So this is from the CEO statement, and so this is a really great place for your organizational leader to just share their thoughts the same way that you might do in, say, an annual report. And here, as Scott mentioned, are the board source questions. And so this is a way to self-check for your organization around best practices in your board leadership, and also to share that out with the world. So it's a really great twofold practice. And then here is the demographic section. So you, as a sector, we're really working on striving toward diversity in how we hire and those sorts of things. And so this is just a really great way to be publicly accountable around that and to share your journey. And so this is your profile itself, and so how you go about updating and supplementing and entering that information into your profile is what I'm going to walk you through now. So I would go first just to the GuideStar homepage. This is usually, if you don't have a profile, the way that you first come across it. So here in this top section is the Update Nonprofit Profile link, so you go ahead and click that. And I'm going to click the Get Started Now button. So here you see that it says you can either sign in or create an account. So an account is different from your nonprofit profile account. So this is your overall GuideStar account. And so you click this to sign into your overall GuideStar account. If you don't have one yet, it's really easy to sign up. There's just a few questions over here on the left. The right. And otherwise, if you already have an overarching GuideStar account, you just click here and sign in. All right, so as I've signed in, and actually I want to backtrack really quickly, and let's just assume that I don't have permission. So okay, that didn't work. And I'd like my password to be this. Confirm my password. This is me signing up for a totally new GuideStar account. Okay. And this is usually not this hard. This is because I was not reading the directions. So now I'm on my way to registering. There we go. Oh boy, okay. So what you get to is a section that shows a sign-up list. So I'd love to get us there if I can, but I think I've used all of my email addresses. So I'll just go ahead and sign in. When you get to the register section, what you'll usually see is actually just down here. So you would put in your EIN for your organization and request permission. The only thing that you want to make sure there is that the email address that you use to register matches the URL for your organization. So jasminem@guidestar.org, so that it's the same. So then I go into this edit form section. And this is where I enter information that then later shows up on my profile. So in this section, and you can more or less think of this as sort of your home base for moving throughout all of the different sections of the tool and updating various pieces. So one of the pieces that we talked about was updating your impact summary. So that is over here in this gold section. So I just click here on the left-hand navigation and I click Impact Summary. And here is where I can just make those edits and talk about my work. Another section that people come back to often is the social media and outreach. So you can see it here on the side here. You can also see it if you go to the Update Your Profile section. They're more or less the same kind of thing. They both act as your table of contents, if you want to think of it that way. So what I want to do is get to my social media and outreach section. So I want to just go here and click Update. I won't walk you guys through the all of these different fields, but what's nice here is that you can see it's pretty intuitive. There's lots of different ways to navigate around this entire thing. One thing that I will note is that you need to first make a change, and then you can hit the publish button. You just publish your changes, and that's how they appear on the profile. So you can always click that view profile button, and if I did that too fast, I'll just go ahead and go again. Here is in this top blue summary that tends to stay there on the top of your page. You can just click view profile, and then you can easily take a look at what your profile looks like right now as of the last time you saved. So that is the interface for how you would make the changes that then later appear here. When you're here, this is only for your eyes, for your organization to work through, and nothing is published until you say it's okay. So that is the long and short of that. I want to turn this back over to Cody. I couldn't see that little thing for a second. I'm going to turn this back over to Cody, who's going to walk you through a couple more things.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jasmine. And thanks, everyone, for the questions you've submitted so far. If you have thought of any questions as we've been going through this, again, please drop those in the Q&A box on the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. So I'll start with sort of the very beginning that you were working on, Jasmine. Someone mentioned that they have claimed their profile and they're not able to update it yet. So what's going on? I'm going to go ahead and jump in there and say that it's going to be kind of a case-by-case basis. We want to make sure that your request went through and really check and see where the process it is. So if you're in that boat, or if you have any questions about how to claim your profile and get access to it, I know that was kind of a little bit of a difficult process right there as we tried to get through that. So here's my contact information. My email address is right there. So if you haven't claimed your profile yet, or if you have and you haven't heard back from us, send me a note right there and include your organization's employer identification number, the EIN number, and that'll help us kind of figure out where you are in the process. Keep in mind that there's a little bit of a delay when you submit that request. Our stakeholder support team reviews those requests and will approve or deny you based on a couple of things. So if you haven't heard back from us yet and you just submitted it, it might be a little bit of a delay. But if you're uncertain at all, just shoot me an email and I'll investigate that for you. Scott, I have a couple of questions for you, and I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball back to you in case you want to share your screen to demonstrate some of these. The first is, can you go over where the Form 990 are again? Did they go away, or where are they?
I got you. Yeah, I'm happy to share my screen. 1 second. They are right up here at the top. All Forms 990 and 990T, if we have those. All the forms that we have available are available here for premium. Now, if you're just a registered user, it's the most recent 3 years, and they're all available within this drop-down right at the top right of the summary section.
Great. And just as kind of a reminder, something that's helping all of us keep in mind where everything is, like Scott said, any of those documents that you're wanting to find, the Forms 990, the annual reports, like Scott said, that's at the top right of each of these sections. Isn't that right, Scott?
Correct. Correct. So you'll see annual reports here, audited financials here, and if we have a letter of determination or a Form 1023, 1024, it'll be at the top right of the operations section.
Great, great. And so you kind of touched on this just a moment ago about the number of Forms 990 that are viewable for registered users versus premium users. So we had a question about The person said, do I need to participate at the gold participation level to take advantage of the new profiles?
Not necessarily. Okay, so if you're at a gold level, you'll be able, you will see this view. The view that we're looking at right now is the premium view. But if you update your data, really at all profiles on GuideStar have this format now. The key advantage for any nonprofit to update their data, to supply data directly to us, is because a lot of this really rich programs and results information, that's where that comes from. I mean, if we have some program information that is submitted via the 990, and sometimes that data can get pretty messy because it doesn't really come with titles, for example, so it doesn't look quite like this, and it's not really as nice. This programs and results section, every user that comes to GuideStar sees it. So your donors will see it. If your funders are out there and they don't have a subscription to GuideStar Premium, they'll see all of this information. And again, registered users will have the most recent 3 years of 990s. Almost all of, if not all of the information that you supply as nonprofits through your profile is visible to most users that visit GuideStar.
Great, great. And then, we're talking about how these profiles are, really robust right now. So we're having a couple questions about folks asking, like, this information, are we, at GuideStar, are we requiring more or new information to build out these profiles, or is that information already there?
I can answer that.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Sure. So all of the information that you fill out through the profile update program is the same information. What we've done is a better job of displaying it. So a lot of this information was on the old profile. The difference is that it was a little more hidden. And so as we did this update, we really wanted to focus on making the information that you enter really front and center and to tell your story the way that you would want it told. So it has more to do with switching up where we show it and how we show it than what we ask. In the future, we'll start asking more questions around your impact metrics and things like that, but we'll be sure to let you guys know when that's coming too.
Great. Thanks, Jasmine. And Scott, while you have your screen showing right here, we have a couple of questions about the nonprofit reviews that come in from stakeholders, from other members of the public. Have they gone away, or are they still a part of the profile?
They're still right here. And again, it's sourced from great nonprofits. So these are still available, and they're in the programs and results section. Sorry, I'm scrolling around so much, but they're all still here.
Excellent. Okay, so Jasmine, I'm going to transition to you a little bit about sort of the nuts and bolts on how to get a nonprofit on our site and sort of those requirements. So the first is how many people at a single organization can get access to update the profile? Is there a limit, or should it be one person? What's the best practice on that?
That's a great question. So there is no limit to the number of people that you can add. At GuideStar, I think that we have at least 15 people who regularly add information to our profile. I would say that a best practice is to add as many as possible, so that you can look to your development team and your finance team to enter the pieces that they're most comfortable. I'd also recommend that you always enter your general email address, so info@your organization, or however you guys frame that, as a separate user. That way, when people come and go or forget their passwords or those sorts of things, you always have at least one person or one email address that's fixed for your organization.
Great, great. So once you have access and you're making updates to your profile, or you know, you need some more information, or you'd like to have a colleague look it over before you publish it, Jasmine, is it possible to kind of make some updates and save them as a draft before publishing? And can you walk us through how to do that? And Scott, I think you're sharing your screen right now, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the ball to Jasmine in case you'd like to walk us through how to do that.
Sure. Yeah, so let me share my screen and walk you guys through that process. So the short answer is yes, it's definitely possible and encouraged to update your profile and wait on it and those sorts of things. So let me just get to my, so I'm going to go in, I want to update my profile, and now that I'm signed in, it'll take me directly to the edit form. And so now that I'm here, let's say that I'd like to update our goals. So we have an internal tagline of be better, and I just want to really include that. So that's how I might do that. And then I want to scroll down and hit save. You could also hit save and continue. You know, continue to the next section. You could fill this all out and continue and continue. And so what you see is that I've saved my changes, but I haven't published them. So my status has changed to you have unpublished changes. And that can stay that way for as long as you'd like. Sometimes we'll send you a reminder just so that you remember that you haven't pressed publish, but it's up to you to decide if and when you want to publish your changes. And so this will stay here throughout until I either tell it to go away or decide to publish my changes.
Excellent, excellent. And while you're in there updating information, how do we update our address or other basic contact information on our profile?
That's a great question. So you can get there a couple of ways. I'm going to go through this side navigation here where it says basic information. In fact, I'm going to go back to summary because that's the cleanest view of that. But you can get there through basic information. You can get there through update your profile. I'm going to go back to the summary section. And right up top here is where you can edit things like your main address. You can just click that pencil there and save that. We tried to make sure that anything that you might want to do quickly or, you know, that is a pretty simple thing that you could have right up top and it's, you know, it'd be really easy to access. So there's that. You can also click this basic information here and add things like additional names or your name change, your physical address, your telephone number, those sorts of things are all right here.
Excellent, excellent. And so I think right along that side, can you show us where to upload photos and videos and those kinds of external facing pieces of information?
Sure. So that's in our social and media section. So if you click that, let me just scroll over here. Just taking a second to load. So now that you're there, you can, obviously you can change any of your social media things. One quick note about your social media, when you're entering these, it's not the link, the URL, it's your handle. So GuideStar USA, those sorts of things as opposed to the whole link. And if you scroll a little further down, then you get to the photos and videos section. So there's some size requirements that are listed down at the bottom here, but you just, you know, same as you would upload anything. You choose a file and go ahead and click it. When you're uploading videos, you wouldn't upload the video itself. Instead, you would enter the URL link, and then we'll embed it. So that's what that looks like. Yep.
Cool. And so along the side there, it says bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Jasmine, can you go over a little bit, like what are those and what kinds of information is required in each one of those?
Sure, it's a great question. So we like to, the reason that we have kind of a tiered system for entering your information is a couple of things. One, we really want people to be able to share as much information as they are comfortable with or have capacity to share. So there's a relatively low barrier to entry. So to get to the bronze level, you're just answering some quick basic information about your primary contact, your organizational leader, your board, and some quick information about your programs. And then the silver level gets a little more in-depth. It talks about your finances. So that's where you would upload your 990 or an audited financial statement. You'd share more about your expenses, your funding needs, your funding sources. And some of these things are required, some of them are not. So in order to earn silver, you really are just entering your basic financial information. If you want to flesh out that story, that's when you start to talk about your funding sources, your funding needs, those sorts of things. And then gold is where we get into a more qualitative look at your overall organizational theory of change. So that's where you would talk about your organization's goals, their strategies, how they are uniquely capable of getting there, and how they measure that work and how they're working toward their progress. A quick note about entering information in gold. So these questions were developed in partnership with Independent Sector, and they have some really great resources online for how to walk you through not only answering them, but also going about the process inside of your organization of getting to those answers. And then the platinum section is actually soon to come. So once we get there, this will be how you can talk about your organization's metrics, how you quantify the work that you do. So that can be your outputs, like number of people served or number of dollars donated, or it can be longer range things around your impact and your outcomes, like number of people who ultimately went on to college, or change in CO2 levels, those sorts of things. So those are the basic requirements, and if ever you want a list of those requirements, you can go to the GuideStar homepage, and in the Update Nonprofit section, or Update Nonprofit Profile, let me sign out really quickly. This doesn't take you to the landing page otherwise. So if you go to this section, you can see requirements and benefits. And these nonprofit data fields, this is the complete list of all of the pieces that are required and that also that you can just enter. So anything with a star next to it is required. But that's a great resource to use.
Great, excellent, Jasmine. We're getting a couple of questions about folks having some difficulties claiming their profile. So, Jasmine, if you want to stop sharing your screen, I know you're having some problems with running out of email addresses. I've got one I can use. I'm just going to walk through really quickly how to do that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, guys, so you can see. Hang on one second. Okay, great. So you're going to head to GuideStar.org, and the first step, as Jasmine showed, and kind of where it was getting a little bit messed up here, was you need to create an account. So you're going to go to GuideStar.org and click here's the main page. Click Create Account or Log In. They actually take you to the same place. So if you need to create an account, you're going to do so here on the right-hand side. Fill out your information here, create a password, select your organization type, that kind of thing. I've actually already created an account, so I'm going to go ahead and once I've created an account and verified my email address through an email that came to that email address, I'm going to come back and sign in. And that'll take me back to the home page here. And you're going to go, just like Jasmine did, to Update Nonprofit Profile here. Click that, then click Get Started Now. And here we are. This is the request form. So you're going to drop in your organization's EIN right here, and then click Request Permissions. Then make sure that your EIN here matches that format that's listed with the hyphen there. And then you'll submit that form there, and our stakeholder support team will see your request and will kind of get to it as soon as they can. You'll get an email letting you know either way whether your request has been approved or denied, and then some steps to follow just in case you're denied, and we need to kind of keep moving with that. So you'll see some steps to resolve that. And so we have just a little bit of time left. Maybe time for one more question. Jasmine, I just want to ask you, we're getting lots of questions about Platinum, and you talked about it just a little bit ago. Can you just kind of briefly share what is Platinum getting at, and do you have an ETA on when it will launch?
Sure. So the idea around Platinum is to share more of your stories and organizations. So it comes at the end of your organization's story arc where you've shared your leadership and your mission and your vision, your strategies. And so this is, now that you've shared all of that, how do you track success? And we make sure to keep that really open. So we want organizations to be able to share how they specifically do that tracking. So, you know, there's a range of sorts of metrics that you can choose from, and we, through our community that's launching very soon, will make sure to provide a space where nonprofits that can sort of share information and talk through that process. But it's really about showing your progress year over year. So you would put in a particular metric and then numbers that surround that metric and their trends. So sometimes that's that this thing is getting better, sometimes that's this thing is decreasing. And it's also okay to talk about your stumbling blocks. We really feel like the way that we improve as a sector is if we share our full stories and really talk about our best practices and our setbacks and give some narrative around that. So anytime we have a section where you supply numbers, we also have a section where you supply a narrative. Something we say at GuideStar is no stories without numbers, no numbers without stories. So there's a section where you put in a particular metric and then explain what that means or give that some context. That's more or less what that'll look like once it launches. If you want to get a jump on it, a thing that I would suggest that you do is, one, get up to the gold level. And I think in that process, what you'll be doing there is really talking yourself through how you think about your work and how you think about publicly tracking that and thinking about that. There's a couple of questions around how you measure progress. So that's a really great way to do it. And then I would suggest either pulling metrics or ideas for metrics directly from that document or from, if you've got a theory of change document or something like that. So those are ways that you can start to get ready for Platinum's eventual launch. I think that the launch will happen sometime in the first half of 2016. And, you know, more details to come as they come about, but know that it's coming and that we'll provide lots of support around it as it does roll out.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks, Jasmine. And thanks, Scott, as well, for demonstrating the new profiles here. This has been really helpful. I hope all of you in attendance today have found this as helpful as I have. And that you have all you need to fully utilize the new GuideStar Nonprofit Profile to make your organization story come to life. As mentioned before, if you missed a point or would like to go over anything again, you'll receive an email from me within 48 hours with links to the recording and slides from today. So don't worry, that'll be coming very shortly. But in the meantime, again, here's my contact information if you have any questions about the profiles. I know we have some still here in the queue about some specific questions you guys have about your organization. Rest assured that we'll be following up to get you answers as soon as we can. You'll also have a pop-up come up when you close out of this event. You can drop in your questions there as well if that's easier. So thanks again for joining us today, everyone. Happy updating and have a great rest of your week.